You already know what time it is. This is the Certified Podcast, and I'm your host, Mike Ginn. We're all the way up to episode number 4. In this episode, we're going to be featuring none other than DC rapper Kingpen Slim, who's made it big over the last decade. We're going to be talking about his career and all the great music he's been putting out lately and continues to put out through 2018. But before we get to any of that, I just want to let everyone know that we are available now twice a week. New episodes come out every Tuesday and Friday. You can find us on iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube, and of course, you can find everything at thecertifiedmag.com, where we have all the show notes on every episode, plus all of our other great content. Now, let's get to episode number 4 and Kingpen Slim, the Certified Podcast. Let's get it. Everybody, welcome to the Certified Podcast. I'm on with none other than DC's own Kingpen Slim. Slim, how you doing today, my friend?
What's happening, brother? I'm here. DC, what's good?
All right, man. We've been trying to get this interview for a while, so most definitely something worth listening to. Yeah, definitely something worth listening to. Me and him go back a little bit. We did an interview a long time ago, so definitely get some nice, fresh material for everybody. You've been dropping some new music lately. Straight Dope Fridays. We'll get into that. We'll get into DC hip hop in general. Hit on everything. But you're good. Everything treating you nice?
Everything treating me nice, man. I just came back a vacation in the islands. I do that.
Oh yeah, we're all a little jealous over that one. I saw that.
Yeah, man. Don't be jealous, man. But it's always dope to be around family. My family from the island, so I get to go there I normally go every Christmas, every New Year, so I did that this year, and I'm just settling back on the East Coast where it's cold at.
Yeah, you just happen to miss out on all the single-digit days, but you're all right.
Exactly.
You come back when it's starting to get back around like 30 degrees, 40 degrees.
When it's bearable.
Yeah. But yeah, so let's talk about you. Let's talk about some of the stuff you've been getting into lately, and then we'll kind of wrap back around to how you got where you are now. But tell me a little bit, like, you've been dropping some fire lately. Like, you've been around in this game for a long time. I remember, like, we did our first interview back in 2010, I think.
No question. We've been. I was gonna say 2011, but it was somewhere around there.
Yeah, 2010, 2011. I remember, just for a little bit of reference, Pure Style magazine was something that predated Certified and everything else for people that are new to everything. But that was the first interview, and I did you, and actually I did. That was when Sonny just got to the city on the radio, pretty much right around the same time, and I remember I interviewed both of you, and both of you got your interviews back to me literally on the same day, and I was like, well, shit, who do I put up first? And in that case, no offense, I went ladies first, and she was on one day, and like you were on the very next.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I remember distinctly because it was funny. It was like April 19th, Sunny, April 20th, Kingpen Slim. So if anybody wants to look back through the archives, that's when you'll find it. But you were doing some great music back then. But man, you've always switched up your style a little bit. Every great artist never kind of like puts out the same thing twice, right? But
exactly.
What you've been putting out lately has really kind of got me excited again. It's been a lot harder beats, a lot more straight fire. Tell me a little bit about like what's going on right now.
So right now I got this. I've been working on this series. It's called Straight Drop Fridays, and basically me and my guys, our whole real, like, I don't know what you want to call it, like the mission of it is just doing music that's going to go in the playlist of today. So like when you're in the clubs and you're in the day parties and you hear a certain sound, or I guess if you will, it's like sonically it all matches. So I want to be able to match that sonically. That's what I'm doing with Straight Drop Fridays. That's why you just hear it. Just like you said, it's more about the beat, more about the feel and the vibe of the record, as opposed to some of the time, some of my other styles that I went through in the past were just more so lyric driven and maybe concept driven.
Yeah.
But this time I'm more so I'm really just going off the vibe. The vibe. When I say the vibe, I mean the feel of the music, the feel of the song, the feel of the room when I'm recording that record. Who's in the studio at that time? It's more so based on a feeling than it is on what I'm saying. And so I think you're getting it straight. You're getting it straight. When you hear it and you're like, oh man, this is getting me excited again, because I'm not wasting any time with the production or really trying to trick you. Before in the past, I was so stuck on like being like one of the best rappers. So I would like overthink a lot of my music, but doesn't mean it wasn't fire, you know, because I was critically acclaimed even for, I got a lot of critical acclaim for a lot of that stuff too. But
no, most definitely. I mean,
just,
you can tell your skill level. That's not a question.
Yeah. Now I'm just more so letting the vibe dictate it.
Yeah, because like I remember you were on some of that new wave stuff, and that was cool. It just wasn't really 100% my thing, I guess, because you know, I mean,
absolutely,
it's hip hop, and the great thing about music in general, not just hip hop, is you know, there's something for everybody, and you know. But the one thing I've always loved about your music is the lyricism, and you know, I've been on this huge kick, and I don't know if you've seen it yet. Like on the new website, one of the first articles I wrote was hip hop, the state of hip hop in 2018, and one of the big like tangents, and I didn't want to get on the whole, you know, my generation's better than your generation's music.
No question.
Like everybody got something for everybody. I don't care if you like Future and some of the new trap music, or if you're old school 90s golden era hip hop, right? And it's one of those things like, what I always love about your music is that it is lyric driven and it is a story. Like from every track you ever put out, and I don't care how far you want to go back, almost every track I think I've ever heard, there's a story in every song. And
yeah, I don't just rap about anything. Like I always have a theme. That's true.
Yeah, and from beginning to end, like you get involved in your music because you want to hear how the story unfolds sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah, I appreciate that, brother. That really does mean a lot to me. We do put a lot into like the concepts and the approach.
Yeah,
but even with the newer stuff, like, I'm still rapping on it. Like I'm rapping good on it. It's just that I found a way to try to like merge the sounds, if you will, with what's now and what I was already doing. Because that's a whole nother era. 2010 and 2011 is another era. It's another era of music, even though it's not that long ago year-wise. When you're talking 6-7 years, and music has changed sonically since then, for sure.
Yeah, funny. It feels like yesterday, but the years.
Yeah, it feels like yesterday, but until you just said it was 2010, I like, because I know I've been messing with you for a minute, but I'm like, yo, that's like around Beam Up 2, like around that time. Jeez.
Yeah, because I got on you right after that first Beam Up. Like, I remember, I mean, it's not like you're super like Jay-Z. Like, you were always like, you're this up and coming artist, and yeah, you're here in DC, so I should have probably heard about you sooner. But I was on that big kick of finding up and coming artists, and I stumbled across Capitol Music. That was the first time I heard you. That big collab, because that was when every city was like trying to do like their own like Empire State of Mind after
you remember.
Yeah, after Jay put that album out. And like you could sit there and I was looking up all these different remixes, and I stumbled upon one and another, and I was like, wait a minute, I know somebody from DC had to put out something. And there were a couple different ones, but then I came across Capitol Music, and I was hooked, you know, because that was
I did a lot. We did
a heavy hitter.
With that. We were able to reach out with a couple people that was, you know, doing their thing at the time, and we got a good.
I mean,
we were able to make a good song.
DC's always had some great hip hop. It's just a lot of people don't hear it. It's never been like major artists. I mean, yeah, Wale came out, and you get a lot of go-go. A lot of people know about Junkyard and Backyard and some of that stuff, and Chuck Brown, obviously. But you don't hear too many artists, and now all of a sudden there's this big renaissance in DC the last 10 years, especially hip hop, but music in general, and it's just been great to see. But yeah, I came across you, and then obviously you get intrigued. You hear, I mean, you only had like one big verse on there, but because it was a big collab, but then all of a sudden like, well, what else this dude got? And like that entire Beam Up album had me hooked. And then you came out with Beam Up 2, like So Cinematic or something like that. And
exactly.
And that evolved. Like it wasn't the same music, but it was still similar, but like you definitely evolved. And then from there you went into a bunch of single stuff, Life After Doubt, and then you just kept evolving, and now you got these tracks, so that's pretty great. But DC hip hop in general, I mean, I remember back in the day listening to Question Mark Asylum, and that was my big thing, like back then. And
Right.
I say that group, and most people don't even know who the hell I'm talking about, unless you're from DC.
No, I do.
Yeah,
I do.
yeah.
Actually, I know the manager. The manager for the group. He had a studio down in Atlanta, and I met him after because my manager with Stu at the time knew him. So I actually met the guy that started that Question Mark Asylum, the dude Cat.
Yeah. And shout out to P Stu too, because he's done a lot for the hip hop industry in DC.
Ain't no doubt about it. You know what I'm saying? P Stu is a legend, man. He's one of the bridges from, the city trying to become a rap town.
Still one of the things I look forward to, and I don't even know if they did it this year, but the Capitol, like that Capitol Cipher, like that's always been a big deal to me. Like
absolutely big deal.
Capital City Cipher, that's always been dope, and I've come across so many DC artists because of that. Like that one thing, like I'll see that YouTube video pop up every year, and I'll be like, oh damn, I never heard of that person or that person, but now I'm on to them too because of him. So, he's definitely put a lot of DC artists on the map. Definitely a shout out to him. Without him, I don't think a lot of this DC hip hop would be, where it is now. You see a lot of people out from College Park to DC, Alexandria. I put you on to a good dude I knew, Shek Carbo. He's doing his thing. Of course, you got Sly, you got yourself. Obviously, always Wale, even though he's kind of moved on to like Florida and some other things. He's still got strong roots in DC. But back to you and back to what you're doing now, like it's kind of cool. Like I don't think you haven't dropped one like this week, or you were promoting one that's coming up soon, right? Like I saw like a little teaser.
Yeah. Basically, whichever one we can get on.
Okay, yeah. So Stash.
So basically, just what happened. Sorry about that.
No, go ahead.
What happened was with the Straight Drop Fridays. I have a really, really talented graphic guy that I'm working with. And so a lot of people started like getting hip to it because of the graphic and the actual promo that we were doing on Instagram. And then he had got a little busy. And also I traveled out the country, like I said, for those other 2 Fridays. So I didn't put anything out those past 2 Fridays, but we had Stash out, Drugs,
the Kaepernick one.
Kaepernick.
I don't give a fuck. Yeah.
Yeah, and then What Big Say. So I felt like that was enough to just kind of bridge me over. And we're not going to drop one this Friday. We're going to drop one the following Friday and get back on my string. Me and my graphic guy got back in touch. So we're going to do that. It's probably going to become a tape. Either I'm going to make it a tape or I'm going to make it I'm going to make it like a little series. I kind of like four.
Yeah, I kind of like the way you're doing it now with just like the playlist on SoundCloud. Like,
there you go.
I think it's pretty dope because
like people can just get straight to it.
Yeah, because I'm doing the same thing right now with Certified. You go on our page and you have the podcast, and then the other thing that's on there now, because I was talking about Shek and he was on the first interview that I did for the podcast, and we talked about the topic of the Old Ambition Lifestyle mixtape that I did came up, and which everybody should go check out, by the way. That's another old ass thing. It's like 5 years, but there is a Kingpen Slim track on there. So definitely something to check out. And that's on our SoundCloud page now because I went ahead and just uploaded it. I was like, you know what? Just for old time's sake, I'm going to put that on there now too. So, the great thing, I love the way SoundCloud works where you can just like do these different playlists and just keep everything kind of categorized without even having to maybe call it an album sometimes. So yeah, the way you've been releasing it every week, that's dope. And then are you putting some of these on other streamings like Sound or iTunes and Spotify and all that stuff?
Spotify and iTunes, yeah. So What Big Say, Stash on Spotify and iTunes as well. So you can purchase them and stream them that way.
All right,
I like to give people the option. Yeah, give people an option if they want to, stream it for free. They can do it on the SoundCloud. But the songs that I'm really pushing, like Stash and What Big Say, are actually my singles.
Yeah.
So I'm running around them with the clubs and trying to get, play on the mix shows and all of that. So
yeah, I love Stash. That's one of my favorite tracks.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, man. Hell yeah.
Speaking of graphics though, man, you got some who does most of your videos? Is it always the same person or is it somebody different? Because you got some really dope videos, especially for an artist.
I work with this guy. I work with this guy named Jay Gregory. You know what I mean? He did Cool Kids. That was like they were the film production company behind Tabby Benet. You remember Tabby when Tabby was just definitely like killing it with all the videos and stuff. So he did all that, and I was fortunate enough to be able to, you know, work with him on some visuals. He's basically in-house. He did a lot of the videos for me lately. I'm trying to think. Bad Guy. If you saw the Bad Guy video, he did that. He did the Demons video. He did Margarita video. The past couple of videos for the past few years, thank God, he did them.
Yeah, I mean, but you've always had dope videos. Like I remember, so I'm kind of refreshed a little bit more than probably you are because I just got done uploading a bunch of these archives to the website so people can go back and look at a lot of the old stuff. And I remember like when we did for that first interview, it was right after you released Goosebumps. And and I remember that video, like even back then, like every video you've done has been insane. I remember the Dead video with Styles P.
Styles P, yeah. First Impressions did that. Yeah, we've done a good job with our visuals, and you know, I appreciate what you're saying because my thing is I pay attention to detail when it comes to sonics, graphics, videos. All of that is my stuff. Like no matter what, I'm gonna try to put out high quality songs and visuals. It just got to be a quality. I want that quality associated with my name. You feel what I'm saying? Like I want people to know.
I'm the same way on the other side of things. So absolutely, yeah.
You feel me? I want people to look at it like I'm coming to Kingpen Slim. I know it's going to be a certain level of officialness,
perfectionist.
Exactly.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Like if you listen to the first couple of episodes that are out now. This episode's going to air, I think this is going to be episode number 4. So a week from next Tuesday coming up, we're recording right now about a week ahead of time. So about 6 days from now when we're recording. But even like the first couple episodes I put out, like I've never officially done a podcast before, but I wasn't going to half-ass it. I wasn't going to just put out, you know, hey, everybody's doing a podcast, let me do a podcast, ha. Like, nah, if I was going to do it, man, I put together the music, I put together, you know, the intro, the outro. If you ever sit there and watch me because we'll do this interview, and the interview is unedited. I'm never going to edit a conversation. Like, what we talk about is what we talk about. If it goes sideways, it goes sideways. It's a conversation, you know. Like I famously tell people, I don't really care what your favorite color is. You know, that's cool for you, but like it's not what I think people want to hear. So we have this conversation, but like the intro, like when I'm introducing the episode, oh my God, I'll re-record that like 85 times, you know, until it's something I can live with. And so I can only imagine on your level, doing all of the music that you do. Yeah, how much work goes into that, how much late nights in the studio, because you put out
same thing, same attention that you have to your craft, I have to mine. You know what I'm saying? So you get it, you feel me exactly where I'm coming from.
Because you put out so much music.
It's all about. I want people to associate my name with quality, and I was never much of a quantity guy. Like I work, you know what I'm saying? Like you said, I work. I put out projects. I'm good for a project a year, but I don't put out like normally I don't like overextend myself or oversaturate myself. I'm kind of doing it now with Straight Drop Fridays because I want to get my fan base excited about my next tape. That's all. So.
Yeah, most definitely. Because the way you're doing it right now, I think it's so much easier. You know, this era of social media, the way that artists just can reach out and touch somebody now without having to go through, you know, major labels to reach out and touch like distribution levels. Like you can just press send, and all of a sudden you're reaching 1 million people. You know, whereas back in the day, you needed that major label to kind of push your music. You don't need that anymore. You can do it yourself. So that's kind of dope.
There you go. You feel me?
Yeah. I like to say like maybe like Chance the Rapper kind of has the best example like on a mainstream level now.
He's really good at it. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean he can sit there.
Just go direct to customer.
Yeah, we were talking about this before. I'm on one previous episode, and it's like the amount of money goes now like 100% into your pocket, right? Like, I mean, you got people you got to pay, obviously, but you know, you decide now how to distribute that money versus the label giving you like 1% of something that you worked so hard for.
Exactly.
Like Chance gave $1 million back to Chicago. Like, you can't do that if you're a signed artist. You just can't. Like
That's
you
real.
you owe your label so much money back on the advance. There's no way you can do that unless you're like a J or somebody that's established and you own the shit at this point.
Yeah, unless you establish. Exactly right.
Yeah. Speaking of Jay, Big, there's a lot of influence in that, and a lot of your, not necessarily always your music, because like we talked about, you do switch up styles from time to time. But I definitely,
no question.
I definitely see a lot.
There's a side of me that's very like heavily Jay and Big influence for sure.
Yeah, most definitely.
Life After Doubt was really about that.
And then what Big say? You know, there's a theme.
And then what Big say, and I use that as the bridge between the Life After Doubt sound and the new sound I was going into.
Yeah,
I was like, I kind of wanted to let people know I was going in a new direction, but it was still me. So I did what Big say. I figured anybody was a fan of me from Life After Doubt and anything before that, they would appreciate it. And then new fans, I could grab them as well. That was really the whole concept behind what Big say. And then if you notice, like you said, the sound is kind of different. It's not different for necessary, just different from the other sound that I was on last year or the year before. That's all.
Yeah,
I do that a lot. I try to find different sonics. I don't.
You have to keep pushing yourself, right? You got to keep challenging yourself.
Exactly, because I'll get bored real quick.
When did you start? When did you drop your first like mixtape album track?
My first like 07, I did. I had this shit called Unsigned Hype at the time.
Because you started and stopped a little bit for other reasons, but like 07?
Yeah, absolutely. You know what I'm saying? I was, running around doing all types of other shit early in my career. You know what I'm saying? I was.
It's DC.
Most people know.
It's DC.
Yeah,
we'll write it up to that.
I was growing up in the streets, so whatever. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. And then, I got more focused around like 09 when I came up with Beam Up 1. So really Beam Up 1, it was like me, my first like, okay, I'm a rapper. I'm going to be a rapper, and this is what I'm doing. And from that point on, I've been going like hard with it,
Yeah, it took me forever to actually track down that whole album too. Like, 'cause I can't really find it. I mean, I'm sure you have it somewhere online, but like the Beam Up was such a great album. Like I sat there and had to go through all my old email. I was like, I know I got a copy of this damn thing somewhere. I know.
Found it?
Yeah, I did because I remember you sent me a copy before because I had lost it, and you're like, here's a link to it. Go get it. And I'm like, all right, cool.
Perfect.
But it's I don't want to harp on the old stuff because you're constantly moving forward. But man, it's just great that you got music that kind of like passes through time, right? Like you can listen to that today and be like, that's dope, and it's not.
Yeah, and that's
not
the dope thing about
time.
it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I just want I just wanted my catalog to be respected whenever I'm done hanging up. I want people to say, and he was dope for a long period of time because a lot of rappers are not good for a long period of time. Like they're good, but they don't stay good. They might not be that interesting anymore. They don't switch their sound up. The world changes. You might get tired of that sound, what you like then. So that's why I always try to just do some new shit. So people that have been rocking with me at least feel like they're getting me, but they also get a new experience when I go into whatever new music I'm going to be putting out.
Yeah, I mean, and the great thing about being from DC is that you're from everywhere. I think that's a great way to put it because, such a mix and bowl of everything that you don't, you come from New York, you're pretty much, New York is a mixing bowl, but it's also a lot more New York. It's a lot more of a certain sound. You come from down south, you're going to have a certain sound. You come from out west, you're going to have a certain sound. And
that's real.
And when I listen to you, like, I never really know what to expect. And that's awesome because, like, you come out with one album, it could be, Biggie, Jay-Z style. You have another album that can be like more Kendrick Lamar, like more introspective. You have another one that could be completely like new wave, different, and it's awesome because like I don't really know what to expect from you, but I know I'll usually enjoy it. So that's always great. We're talking about coming up in DC because you grew up in the Adams Morgan area. I think we talked about this before on the old interview.
Yeah, I grew up around Adams Morgan. I did. Absolutely.
Yeah, and so you're born in were you born here, or just your family's from the islands?
My family's from the islands. I was born in DC though.
So yeah, so you're born and bred, which is super rare as is. A lot of people say they're from the city, and not to pull back the curtain a little bit, but my wife gets on me all the time because wherever we go,
we'll say I'm say from DC, and she's like, "You're not from DC. I'm from DC because I grew up in Northern Virginia." So
there you go.
And now I'm out in Montgomery County, but like she'll always correct me because she's straight born and bred in DC, and she's like, "I hate when people say they're from the city and they're not from the city. I'm from the city. You're not from the city." And I'm like, you have to explain to somebody it's kind of landmark. You go out to I went out to Denver. I'm not going to tell somebody, I grew up in Alexandria, Virginia. They're like, where is that? I say Washington, D.C., they know, right? So, I notice the further I get away from the city sometimes, it is the only landmark you can really tell people that they know exactly where that is. Even though history buffs should know where Alexandria is, but that's another thing.
That's real.
Yeah, but growing up...
Where she grew up at? Where your wife grew up at?
Northwest, pretty much the whole time. Everything from Columbia Heights up to Brightwood, that area. Yeah. She's adjusting to suburban life now. I mean, I grew up in Alexandria, but I grew up in not the nice part. You know what I'm saying? Like there was no nice.
What part? Delray?
No. Well, originally, yeah. When I was little, yeah, that was the first place I was, and then I don't know if most people understand this, but Duke Street and then the West Side for the most of
I know Duke Street.
Yeah, most of my childhood, the West Side, teenage years into my young adult years of the West Side over there, where.
Where's that? Like Young Mo? Where he from? 5,000?
Yeah, actually, I mean, he's much younger and came up way after me, but yeah, that neighborhood.
Yeah, no question.
That exact neighborhood. My people are the people that kind of helped put him on. Like the groups the era that I grew up in, a lot of them are the first ones to put him on. And a lot of those cats are doing music. Like that's one of the ways they've kind of kept out of trouble a little bit is doing music. There's a lot of drugs and stuff that kind of go through the whole West Side.
Right.
Back in the 90s, it got real hot because they were cracking down on DC, so everybody kind of came down 95, and they all went straight to Alexandria. And right where I was at, man, they put 2 police substations in a little apartment complex that we lived in. So that tells you right there it got super hot. It's just always been – it's one of those things. Alexandria is always like one side of the street is ghetto, low-income housing. The other side of the street is like $1 million townhouses, and they literally like right across the street from each other. And
right, you know exactly. Yeah,
it's so weird because nobody really understands that. You say, "Oh, Alexandria is so nice," and I'm like, "Walk across the street, like go across the street." It's much nicer than it was back then, though. I mean, I go through there now, and like I don't know anybody still. There's a couple people still live in the old neighborhood, but. Like it's changed dramatically. Like they've tried to clean it. Same thing with DC. Like they've tried to gentrify most of DC. You couldn't as somebody who wasn't from a certain neighborhood, you couldn't walk down like where the Nationals Park is now. Like you didn't want to be anywhere near that South Capitol area.
Yeah, that was a different time though. You were so right. Now
you can pretty much walk. I'd say you don't want to walk certain parts at night, but pretty much anywhere around a major part of the city, you're 100% safe in the city nowadays. Like I can't even remember the last time, and I've worked and lived in DC now for years, and like I can't remember the last time I had to look over my shoulder walking anywhere in the city. Like it's just changed. And
that's some real stuff. It's not the same.
Like you talk about Adams Morgan back in the day, like yeah, everybody go down Adams Morgan, get tore up on 18th Street, partying it up. But you didn't want to go around that corner. Like you didn't want to like park your car like too many blocks away from 18th. Like you knew that car wasn't either going to be there when you got back, or you had to look over your shoulder while you were trying to get in that car.
That's real.
So back now, so I told you about getting sidetracked, right? But back to these influences. So Jay, Big, who else kind of like got you really like going and stuff? Were you like ever like in the West Coast, like Pac and Dre and all them or anything?
Mm-hmm.
So just a little bit of everything then.
I liked West Coast stuff too. Fabulous. I was a big Fabulous fan.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, him and Jada just tore up everything. Like they just stopped everybody in the tracks.
Jada. Of course, the original Pac stuff. When I was young, that was dope for sure. T.I.
Yeah, I can see that.
Especially early T.I. stuff. Those are like my main influences right there, bro. For real. Yeah, those guys. I mean, Jay, of course, you know, Big and Pop, you know what I'm saying? They died a long time ago. I was still young at that time, but that was like when I was first getting into hip hop.
How do you
so
feel?
That's why I really like hold on to them so near and dear, because they like introduced me to hip hop, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I know you're a little over opinionated, so I won't get you on too many tangents because I love some of the dimes you drop on social media sometimes about getting people to think about it. I know I think you said one time, like, are these people in the top 5, like, do they deserve to be because they weren't there long enough or something like that?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's just certain people put out more music than other artists based on their lifespan or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, if let's say one artist dropped, 2-3 albums. In this case, we're talking Biggie, right? But then you got another artist who lived a longer life, and maybe he dropped, I don't know, 10 albums. So you got to look at his career a little bit differently because he played longer. So, of course, he's probably going to have some material that's not as good because that's just a longer time to have a career. That's a longer time to put out something when you're not inspired, all that stuff. Biggie just caught it at the right. He's a phenomenal rapper for sure, without a shadow of a doubt. He wasn't around long enough to give us nothing whack. We got all good stuff from him, and then he died,
Yeah, I think that kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier about some of your earlier stuff, just the longevity, the legs that something has. Like, you can still listen to it. Like, I think the reason
you're talking about, like, you're talking about literally you're talking about listening to me since 2009, 2018. You know what I'm saying? So that's literally 9 years of material.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are not good. Okay, go look at who was out in 2009 and think of who you're still listening to right now. You know what I mean? That's just the best way I could say it. Like, that was the year Drake came out. I remember that. So he's still killing it, obviously. But, Fab, a lot of, maybe T.I., a few guys here and there. Other than that, there ain't a lot of guys that you're still listening to from that time.
Yeah,
Not a lot of guys.
I agree with you because, like, you talk about longevity. Like, the thing about Big, though, is, like, I think it's, it transcends time, right? Like, you listen to...
That's what I'm saying. You can still listen to some Biggie shit right now, and you're not going to feel like...
Yeah, even if you never...
country.
But you can have, like, a teenager or somebody who never heard Big before. You put on Juicy, like, go all the way back, and they'll be like, oh, shit, that's fire.
Exactly right.
And I think that's, like, like you said, he didn't have a chance to water it down. You look at, and I'll go a little more mainstream, and a lot of people think it's corny when you say, like, LL Cool J, right? Because he crossed over, he did the movies and TV, and he quote unquote, people love to say when somebody's successful in hip hop that they sold out by doing different stuff. Him, Will Smith, and a bunch of other dudes, right? Well, you look at some of old LL Cool J. I mean, you still can put on Rock the Bells. You still can put, Mama Said Knock You Out, or you still can put Bad, or any of those tracks back then, and they still got longevity, right? They still play. But then you put some of his other stuff, some of his love music, the Hey Lover and stuff, even though they're kind of classics and stuff, it's just such a different sound. People kind of fell off on him, right? So like you said,
that's real.
He didn't have a chance to fall off, but I think that's why he'll always be in the top 5, just because what he did. It's like Terrell Davis in football, right? He had those like 2,000-yard seasons. You can't take that away.
Very, very similar. Very similar.
Yeah,
but Terrell Davis, he had a hard time. He had a hard time with his Hall of Fame because of the amount of time that he was doing it.
Yeah, and then he got in eventually, but
he got in eventually, right? As he should have, because I think he was a Super Bowl MVP one of them years, so he should have got in. But
not just that. I didn't even realize
it
at one point that he has, like, I think some of the best ever out of all the running backs in history. Like, he has some of the, like, I think he's either like the most rushing yards in the playoffs and Super Bowl in history, like total. So
yeah, because didn't they win back-to-back?
They went back-to-back, but they went to the playoffs for a number of years in a row too, because they were really good.
I'm saying they were good for a while.
And I'm actually now, like, you got me, like, curious. I started looking back at 2009. I'm like, wait, who is still around?
Yeah, it's a good exercise to do, man. Go back and think about who was popping or what you were listening to and what you still Big Crit maybe. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I didn't like look specifically for hip hop. I just looked like top 100 or whatever 2009.
There you go. Exactly.
you got people that had longevity. Kanye was out then, and that wasn't too far into him. But you look at people like, and this isn't throwing shade at anybody, but Sean Kingston was hot. You don't really hear from Sean Kingston too much now. Soldier Boy was
That's
hot.
real.
Soldier Boy kind of like he comes back and forth.
Even though Soldier Boy still to me kind of like Soldier Boy. I think Soldier Boy gonna always be Soldier Boy because
he's a personality now just as much as he ever was in music.
He's a personality now, and even if whether you like his music or whatever, it doesn't like he's a legend. You know what I'm saying? Like he changed the game. Really, he did. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of that shit that them dudes is doing was him. Like that drill music, a lot of that come from him. You know what I mean? Like it does. He's the main influencer between him and Chief Keef of a lot of the younger rappers. Big influence, very influential rapper.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you can't ever say that when he had Crank that people weren't rocking it. Like he may be, I don't even know if he's a one-hit wonder, but he hit it so big with that one that he made his entire fortune.
There you go. Like probably made so much money off that song. Probably still making money off that song. Okay. Probably still eating off that.
Funny enough, I found in like the hip hop one, and so many of them are such mainstream artists from 2009 that they all have longevity. Like Luda was hot that year. Lil Wayne was hot that year. The only one I really see in the top whatever that most people know, but really hasn't had the longevity of being on top. I guess, like you said, some people come up, some people go down. But Jim Jones had a track on there, and he kind of goes up and down a little bit.
But they ought to come back out.
Yeah, with, I've been hearing a lot about that. Yeah, a lot of noise about that. It's nice to see Santana back in the mix too.
Absolutely. I'm a big Joel Santana fan.
Yeah, I mean I don't see much from Plies anymore. But then like
Plies still got some shit though. Yeah, Plies is still working. I follow Plies on social media.
But I'm looking at all these things.
But Plies is involved. He's evolved as well, like to a social media personality. He's a little bit more than just just a guy that you're just waiting for his songs. I think you taste like, for instance, if you're a nightclub owner and you work anywhere in the South, anywhere really, you would hire Plies to host a night. Oh yeah, yes you would. Even right now, 2018, you wouldn't be scared to put Plies on no flyer in your city and think people gonna come out. That's facts.
Oh, no doubt. Like, he's got his market on lock. But 2009 was also one of those good like times in hip hop also though, because everybody calls '90s the golden era, but there was some time periods, especially in the like before. I don't want to say before 2010 because there's still a lot of good music right now, but like I was talking to you earlier about the lyricism in hip hop. The article I wrote was really about how optimistic I am going into 2018 when, like, at the beginning of 2017, I wasn't really optimistic with a lot of hip hop out right now. Like, a lot of it was, and there's a time and place for everything. I'm very careful, and I'm not trying to be politically correct and trying to make everybody happy. That's not really what I'm doing. Like, there's a time and place for every kind of music that everybody enjoys. Like, I like to famously say, I like all music except for country. Like, country music, going music, I don't really fuck with. But that's my personal taste. I grew up with a family, and I'm white. Like most of my family lived out in the suburbs, out in the country. So whenever I go visit them, that's all I get stuck listening to, which is probably why I hate it so much now. But but it's like, and also like my very first job was in a record store. Like, and this to date me, this to tell you how old I am. My first job was working at a Waxy Maxie's, and I don't know if you remember that because this is like before Tower Records. Like they were big for a while, but. So I'm listening to like alternative rock. I'm listening to classic. I'm listening to hip hop. I'm listening to everything. So I got a very eclectic palette, and I'll go to hip hop almost every time first. But there's a lot of influence from everything there. I'm sorry, you got cut off. Go ahead.
Say that again, big brother.
No, I was saying
the Waxy Maxes. I didn't hear what you said at the end of that.
Yeah, no. I'm just saying like how eclectic my music tastes are from that. And having that diversity and everything. But my point was kind of like there's a time and place for everything for everyone, right? But I wasn't really optimistic with hip hop in 2017 until the end. The last I know this is kind of traditional. Like the last month of the year, everybody puts out like the hottest music, right?
No question.
But when like the whole year was like, to me, it was like watered down trap music. like you have Future, but then you have like everybody trying to be Future. I think it's more like just everybody kind of copies everybody else's sound. It's been like that forever.
For real, that's real.
But there were a few tracks that I really like rocked out to, but most of those were anthem tracks. They weren't like I said, like I was talking to you about earlier about stories, right? Like when I listen to one of your tracks, and you can go back or you can talk about now, like Stash, like Kaepernick freestyle, Drugs, like Drugs. You're talking about your history in and out of the game. Like I don't give a fuck. Like all four of those tracks that you have out right now, all of them you can listen to and you can hear the story, the theme if you want, from the beginning to the end. And
that's real.
And you've always been super big on lyricism. There's not too many people you can look at in the game right now that are still relevant, especially any that have come up in the last couple years, that are super lyrical. Like everybody talks about Kendrick, and I look at Kendrick, and I love Kendrick. Like he's one of my favorite rappers. I used to love Kendrick back in the day when he was K Dot. Like when he was doing those mixtapes as K Dot. Oh my God, because he was a lot harder than he is now. I think he's kind of watered it down a little bit for mainstream so he can make that money.
He's a brand at this point, so it's certain shit he just ain't gonna be doing like he was doing when he was on that mixtape run. He was so raw, and
he didn't give a fuck.
You know what it's like? It's like basketball, right? So you ever you go play pickup basketball and shit, and you got the dude on the playing pickup, and he can do all these tricks. You can't play like that in the real game though, because that might be like walking and carrying and traveling and all these different calls. So it's different.
Ray for Austin.
Exactly. Ray for Austin was a legend playground. He made the league though, you know what I mean? So he still got a check, but he wasn't as good in the NBA as he was on the blacktop.
Yeah, but he made that money off the.
But he still made the NBA, and a lot of them dudes that play playground basketball don't make the NBA.
There was a few I was surprised that didn't make it, but and R.I.P. to Alimo. Like I thought that dude should have most definitely been in the league, but
exactly.
Yeah, nice. You're talking about Kendrick, like. He still puts out every once in a while. You'll hear a song that kind of like surprise you that he did that. But if anybody's followed his career for a certain amount of time, you know like that's that raw Kendrick that got him where he is now.
Exactly.
But like I said, like the lyricism, like I think Big Sean, like some of his music hits me hard, and some of his music like I just can like pass on. But I think some of his stuff, one of the great things I love about Big Sean is he kind of tells a story like throughout his whole thing. Like he has a theme throughout the beginning to the end.
Yeah, he stays with a theme.
And
he heavy on his come up.
Most definitely. But like I was talking about stuff that got me excited towards the end of the year, and maybe it's just such a great time for you to be coming out with the same like hot music as well, because it's really made me excited because you got the Fab and Jada mixtape, which those dudes came out, and this tells you the difference between the eras, right? Because like those '90s dudes, they didn't just do a mixtape to say, hey, let's put our name out there, let's make a couple dollars and call it a day. They tried to kill each other on that tape. Like it was really Freddie versus Jason. Like from the very get go, the intro, they tried to murder each other.
Yeah, there was some good rapping, man. Some good rapping. Some good raw rapping. Never lie.
And then you got like, Jay came out this year, and for some of his album was pretty good. I didn't mess with all of it, but Eminem, like the back half of his album was way better than the first. I think he just put too many tracks on his. I think he watered himself down. But Fab, Jada, J.R. Ryder, there's just so much good music came out in December that just got me so optimistic for 2018, and I'm hoping it just rolls over, and the hip hop industry and its whole can just keep this fire going, and it doesn't kind of like die down. I think anytime you have a interesting, let's not piss anybody off here, interesting political climate, And I'll save any political talk if I ever launch the Certified Politics podcast. But because I'm sure everybody's got an opinion one way or another. But when you have a intense political climate, it usually drives for better music, and I find that to be the case in any genre.
That's real.
I don't ever really see you get too political, but you did with the Kaepernick, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, that was me, realizing that it's probably dope for me to say something about it.
I mean, anybody that follows you on social media knows that you have opinions on everything. So I don't think anybody's ever surprised if you do something like that, but you tend to keep most of your music towards your stories and your life's journey, which is,
That's real. I'm an opinionated guy, I guess. And, the social media is dope because you get a chance to get your opinions off.
Yeah, you're one of my you're one of my two favorite people to follow because I know every time you say something, you're gonna start a fire. You and Lonnie Harrell, Prime Objective. Speaking of street ball.
Yeah. He's the same way.
Yeah, you and Lonnie, when y'all say something, I'm just like, I sit back with like T.O. with the popcorn. I'm just sit back, give me the popcorn. Let me just see what's going on.
Especially Lonnie on basketball because he's really opinionated on basketball.
I mean, the dude's put in the years, right? Like, for anybody living under a rock, Lonnie Harrell, Prime Objective, like, talk about and one, talk about and he dipped his toe in the league, camps, and I think he did some summer league stuff, and he might even have made it like part of one year. I remember Lonnie like back in the day because me and my boys used to hit up. They used to have that USBL. Used to play down at where they played, not UDC. Or was it UDC? They might have been playing UDC. Like they used to have the USBL in DC. And we go and he used to play on that team with I want to say Craig Smith or somebody like that. Mm-hmm. And man, you go in there. And Lonnie back in the day was like an icon. I mean, he still got a heavy name around here, but like you couldn't go anywhere with that dude and people not be like, oh shit, and like swarm him. Like for somebody that wasn't in the league, he had so much love from DC.
He did because he was from DC. You know what I mean? So
and he
grew up here,
and he
went to high school here.
Yeah, he was good. Yeah, he went to Eastern. Yeah, but he was just that damn good though. Like you talking about a big dude with just like handles and shooting.
And early too. You know what I mean? Like everybody big can do that now, but he was doing that at the time. He was doing that in the '90s. Everybody couldn't do that then.
Yeah, that was pre Kevin Durant, pre all that stuff. Like,
that's what I'm saying. He was an early KD, an early DeMar Johnson, even a little bit earlier than DJ.
Yeah, they were close to the same era though.
He's probably a year or two before DJ, maybe. I could be. If I was just trying to remember it all.
I think DJ was more of the start of the AAU era though. Yeah, so
that's
maybe
right.
maybe
Lonnie's a little bit
right before that.
So. Yeah.
Damn, mm-hmm. I feel old now.
Yeah, Lonnie. I'm just guessing. Lonnie probably 40 now.
Yeah, he's around my age. I want to say maybe a year or two older than me. I'm 40.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then DJ's probably like 36. You know what I'm saying? Something like that.
Yeah, because I mean, I grew up with like. You talk about Alexandria. He went out to D.C. and then made it to the league, but like Keith Bogan.
You talking about my man? I know Keith Bogan from out Delray. Yep.
Well, Bogey actually grew up on the west side. He grew up in my neighborhood. Like he was the little kid that followed us around and was like playing ball with the bigger kids. I mean, I say little.
There you go.
I say little.
I didn't know I thought he was from Delray, but there you go. He's from the west side.
Yeah, and I mean his dad was in D.C., so he was able to go and play at the DeMatha and everything. But. Mm-hmm. You look at that dude. I mean, I say little. Like he was like 6 feet tall in sixth grade. Like he was a tall little kid. He was taller than me when he was in sixth grade, and I was like 2 or 3 years older than him. But he always was like the younger guy to hang out with our crew and playing ball. And back then, I mean, we had a lot of people like Damon Jackson went out to Georgetown. That whole like the greatest missing I ever saw was the fact that he didn't go to TC. Like he went out to DC to go to DeMatha. Because that TC team for a number of years was so stacked in Alexandria. You know, we had Mikey Horton go out to Cincinnati. was just a great time for basketball in that era. And then years later, actually, we won more states later with Eric Shorts and a bunch of other dudes after that. So
absolutely.
Yeah, but Lonnie was dope. Like, he's still dope. Like, I say he was dope. You catch him out on one of those, like, Arlington basketball, like, Roslyn, Pentagon City, or wherever else he's balling. You catch him out at noon when he's out there balling and see if he doesn't light your ass up. I don't care how old he is. Yeah, he's in better shape than my ass is. Like, that dude bikes all over the city. He's crazy.
He's a legend, man.
Got totally sidetracked. Well, yeah.
Well, you knew that was gonna happen at some point.
Yeah, you talking about DC, man. Talking about opinions and I can't wait to see how much you talk about John Wall and getting that 5-year Adidas deal, because he got that money on top of money now.
Right.
I didn't even see how much he got paid for it, but I'm guessing now that they're out of they still got to pay Derrick Rose, but I guess they're trying to put the money into Wall now. They always need that top flight point guard for Adidas. So. I guess Adidas got what? Him and Dame? That's it, pretty much. John Wall and Dame, like, is their top guys now?
I feel like we're missing somebody.
I mean, it's still Derrick Rose, but like, unless Derrick has this miracle comeback. And I'm a big Bulls fan. I'm a diehard Bulls fan since Jordan. I never jumped off that bandwagon. I jumped on it about 30 years ago, but I've been on it. But Derrick, like, his body's gone. Like, he can't. Ever since that first injury, he's done. Like, I love his heart. He keeps coming back. People kind of question him when he talks about walking away from the game. But I think it's really hard when you're on that level of success at such a young age to accept not being that guy anymore. Because he's still young.
I agree.
He's still what? He's not even 30 yet. Like, what's Derrick? Like 28, 29, something like that? I can't even. But look at shit.
Derrick Rose is not 30. That is true. He can't be 30 yet.
Yeah,
but he's probably 29, if I had to guess.
I mean, you talk about a guy who reached that level of success, and then now he's what? Like, he has to accept not being that guy anymore. I can't imagine. Like, sometimes, yeah, he's 29. Like, he just turned 29 in October. Like, I couldn't imagine, like, being at the top of the league at like 22, 23 years old as an MVP, and then you're gonna tell me not even 6 years later, when I'm supposed to be in my prime, that I'm not the guy. Like, I don't know how he mentally, I don't know how he adapts to that. I don't care what industry you're in. You're talking hip hop, and the great thing about non-physical stuff, web development or, magazines and stuff like that, I can type an article when I'm 85 years old, right? It still can be dope. You can put out a song when you're 85 years old. It still be, fire. But physically, when you're in a sport, you only have a short window to be who you are. So, more power to John Wall for getting that money now, because between the NBA money he just got and that Adidas money, that dude's set for life. Set for life.
He's going to be straight.
Yeah. You see him on the corner? I don't think so. I did think it's funny. I think I had a friend who worked over at Mastro's, and I guess they had just opened that steakhouse down in D.C., and I guess he came in, he wasn't wearing the right shoes, and they actually made him go buy a pair of shoes to come in and eat. I thought that was hilarious.
For real?
Yeah. He actually had to go down to the store, get a pair of shoes to come back so he could eat there. And he was super cool about it because they had a dress code, But
nothing wrong with that.
He ain't gonna have no problem buying those shoes now.
That's for sure.
So I'm still surprised they actually told him to go change shoes, considering who he was. But
considering who he is, right?
I guess you got to respect the fact that a restaurant, no matter who they are, they got standards. So you're a couple blocks from the White House.
They want to keep that standard, and obviously he wanted to eat there, so.
Yeah, no doubt. When you're that close to the White House, you pretty much, it doesn't matter who you are. But I won't take up too much of your time because we're almost up at an hour. Real quick, before we get sidetracked again, anything you really want to plug in and promote? I know you.
Yeah, Lambo and Low. That's the next generation of the artists that I'm working with right now. He signed to Roster Records. Lambo and Low. We definitely got to talk about him. He the one that I think are gonna be around for 10 years. Like, I'm coming up on 10 years of having some some relevance and dominance in the area, and I think he's going to be able to do the same thing. He's a really dope artist, a breath of fresh air. I think he reminds me of.
Yeah, you mentioned
like
him earlier. You're gonna have to send me the links on that one so I can get up to date on him.
Yeah. He I always tell people he's like a bridge between J. Cole and Sway Lee. So he sounds like right now, but he has something to say. So Lambo and Low, definitely be on the lookout for Straight Drop Fridays. Like my good man Mike said, man, the music is all good and it's official. You can get it on my SoundCloud. You can really just go on my website, kingpenslim.com, KINGPEN slim.com. Be on the lookout for the Straight Drop Fridays. It's not gonna be this Friday, but I'm dropping something the following Friday, some fire, keeping with tradition, just staying busy, and y'all run my streams up on Stash and What Big Say, Spotify.
Yeah, I'll put links to all that stuff in the show notes. Make sure everybody can get up on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You're gonna have to put me in touch with your boy too, so you can get him up on the podcast too soon. Give him a chance to.
No, absolutely. I can put you on with him. You know what I'm saying? Or Peace too, if you want to interview him too. You know what I mean?
Most
I
definitely.
Get you with them. Yeah.
Most definitely. P. I could pick that dude's brain for easily an hour. Probably make that a multi-part. That dude's been around this game for so long.
Yeah, absolutely. He would love to talk to you.
Actually, I do have a question. Not to make this an interview, but I do have a question for you before I let you get out of here, because this kind of came up in a previous thing too. How do you feel about local radio? Because I remember back in the day, and this is how this came up, and let me set the table for you. So I was talking to Shek Carbo, and we kind of transitioned to it a little bit. We were talking about how much the radio has changed and how much you don't how radio is almost becoming irrelevant because you can get everything online and you got streaming services on every corner. Whether it's Spotify, iTunes, Tidal, it doesn't matter. There's so many ways to get a hold of music nowadays. And then, of course, HD radio and XM, Sirius XM and all that stuff. But he brought up a really good point. There's not much local love on the radio anymore. You remember back in the day, WPGC, and this is where I'm transitioning to you, because he said that was the first place he ever heard of a Kingpen Slim. On WPGC when they play the local, Fridays and people call in and vote whether it stays or goes and stuff like that. How do you feel about that? Because I don't think you hear that stuff anymore.
Yeah, man. I think it's a new time. Also, it's the younger generation, so they might be checking for just what they're checking for. You know what I mean? It's not a lot of homegrown radio guys, and then radio is different. Radio is also going through a transition in and of itself, where radio is not the dominant way that the youth listen to music, even though radio still has a very, 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 very big audience.
Yeah, it's still a big footprint.
So, yeah, they have a big audience still, so you can still tap into it. But, like you said, more people listening to SoundClouds and Spotify's, and that's really where the game going. So it is what it is, bro. You gotta adapt and adjust. I mean, I can't say that they don't support, because they do try to do stuff, for the artists here and there. But I can see why you would say that as well, because it might just necessarily be the guys that you're used to checking for. But they check. They when I listen, they got segments for the newer guys. They try to do stuff. So
yeah, I don't. Think...
They're not gonna do everything. A lot of these guys are getting themselves hot without radio.
Well, I think the point was to Shek's credit that we don't have locally owned radio anymore. It's all corporate.
No.
iHeartRadio. iHeartRadio owns half the stations, and the station that owns PGC owns 100, 200 stations across the country, and the same for WKYS. And it's not locally owned, locally sourced anymore. So you have a hard time finding those gems. Nowadays, you have to follow one person to follow another to kind of follow this the paper trail, if you will. And when I came across you, like I said, I was looking for one thing, came across another. Bam, I found Kingpen Slim. But, I can't even remember the last time. And you can talk about news, you can talk about hip hop. You hear stuff more on a global scale than you ever will locally. And even though my podcast is definitely aimed at a larger audience, I would love to have, Jay-Z on. I would love to have Eminem on. I would love to have big time actors, big time business people, because this podcast isn't just about music, even though I've interviewed quite a few music people first, because I think it's more closer to my roots than it is anything else. Just the people I'm already in contact with, easier to communicate. You know, I'm getting new to this as well, and I'm trying to get more comfortable. So, you know, it's easier for me to talk to a Kingpen Slim who I already have kind of a relationship with. I did an episode with Concept, and, you know, I got a relationship with him. You know, he's doing big things now. He's all the way out in South Korea now, doing his thing. Concept, he's out of Brooklyn. He's done stuff out of LA. Now they got him out in Sony Music Asia. He went out there for like a 2-week tour, November before last, and they kept him there. Like he impressed the right people, and all of a sudden he signed at Sony Music Asia, and he hasn't come home since. And you know, he's like you. He puts out so much music. It's insane.
Absolutely.
You know, staying busy. But no, like, you know, you're talking about your boy, you know, Lambo, and like, I would love to get him on. That's one great thing I think I've always done, and I've always tried to do. Like, it's not that I don't want to interview the biggest artist in the world, because who wouldn't want those, you know, that publicity, right? That notoriety. If Jay called you tomorrow and wanted to get on track, you're not going to tell him no, right?
No, hell no. I'm always looking for ways to increase my profile.
Yeah, but at the same time, you know, you've done a lot of features with like up and coming artists sometimes, you know.
Absolutely, yeah.
Talk about Goosebumps. You put Imani on that, you know.
Absolutely.
And I always love to do the same thing with my media, my spectrum of the you know, the crowd, the audience. You know, I like to definitely shine the light on the Kingpen Slims, shine the light on the Shek Carbo, shine the light on, you know, everybody I can get my hands on that I think is actually quality. Like, I like to say this a lot, and I hate to sound like a broken record, but like I haven't fucked with Kingpen Slim for almost a decade because of loyalty. You know, I did it because, you know, he's a great dude, and, you know, we can chit chat on social media and whatever offline. But I fuck with Kingpen Slim because he's fire. Like, you know, for years and years, you just keep coming out with fire, and you don't sit down and content with what you've done. Like, I've never once seen you content. I've never once seen you, like you said, like you came out with Life After Doubt. I didn't see you sit there and be like, all right, let me just relish this moment. Nah, then you're like right back in the studio doing something different. You know, go back to the Beam Up. The Beam Up was like, you know, I like to say I got lucky. Like, when I did Ambition Lifestyle Volume 1, Rise and Grind Volume 1, I can still go back and listen to that and be like, God damn, I did that? That was me? I did that? I put that compilation together? And there was just many great artists on that made that what that is. Apollo Ali, I always call him Y Fame. He's changed his name a couple times. But Lester London, Jarrell Blue, back when he was with the Milkmen, yourself, Jesse Malay's on there. I got Sam Styles. You know, it's a pretty fire thing, and it's a bunch of up and coming people a lot of people haven't heard of, you know. And that was the whole thing behind the Rise and Grind I wanted to do more of, and I definitely need to get a hold of you because I'm hoping later this year to do a mixtape, do Volume 2 finally. I mean, it's only taken 6 years, but or 5.5 years, but Volume 2, I would love to come out and love to get some input from you and keep that fire going. But like I said, man, I don't think proud's the right word because you did this so much on your own without anybody. You didn't need somebody to like hold you up. You just kept going and going and pushing and pushing. But man, like watching you from 2009, 2010 when I first came across you to now, man, you haven't slowed down one bit.
Appreciate that, brother. I don't want to ever like fall off until I'm, you know, when I'm falling off, then I'll just quit, you know.
Yeah, most definitely. But I try to keep most of these episodes around an hour, and I would most definitely love to have you back on. I know we could probably spend an hour talking about the Wizards or talking about.
Absolutely. No, you know we could, brother. You know we could.
I mean, I could.
But we get it in. We'll talk again when I'm coming closer to dropping the tape, and yeah, we'll chop it up again once I get a little further along with my next project.
Most definitely. You know, you're always welcome. Everybody, you can follow him at Kingpen Slim, kingpenslim.com. The SoundCloud is /Kingpen Slim. I'm going to put show notes, all those links in the show notes for everybody. And then, yeah, everybody should be able to find everything. But I want to thank you for taking the time today, man. I much appreciate it. I'm glad we could finally get on the same page, get it knocked out. This episode should probably come out. We're recording this right now on the 10th, so this episode is going to come out next Tuesday, so the 16th. So everybody can definitely tune in for episode 4. We come out with 2 episodes every week, every Tuesday and Friday. So make sure everybody stays tuned for the next one. Slim, thank you so much. Appreciate you. Always appreciate you. You supported me just as much as I've supported you. So thank you so much.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad we got around to doing it. And, we're going to chop it up, man. It's always a pleasure talking to you, brother. For real.
All right, man. Well, I'm going to let you go. You have a good one. That's a wrap. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Talk to you soon.
All right, brother. Peace.